isn't it? Now, delighted to welcome director Alex Fagan to the studio. Alex, good evening and welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Tom.
The man behind the beautiful film The Irish Pub, which is currently on release in Ireland. For you who haven't seen it, it's like a love poem almost to the Irish pub, isn't it?
That's right. It's went around, interviewed the owners of pubs and got them to tell us about the history of their pub, what makes their pub so unique, why there's a confession box in the middle of their pub, why there's a samurai sword in their pub, funny anecdotes in their pub, all that kind of stuff.
Why did you do it? Where did the idea come from?
They say you should do what you know, Tom. Over the years, gone to a lot of pubs and just had this real curiosity.
How did you come to be in a lot of pubs over the years?
Well, unlike yourself, I didn't get to travel around, play music and them, but it was more just, you're at a wedding in Cork and you might pop into a local pub, or you're in Kerry. My wife is from Kerry, so you pop into a local pub again and you just get curiosity as to why they have all these things in their walls and just chatting to the owners, and they're so interesting.
We used to find them now. We didn't play in them that much. But if you were in town and you had a bit of time in the town, you'd ask where the local old man's pub is.
Yeah.
And that was how you described it. And people would always send you to because there would always be old men in the pub.
Yeah.
End of story. And the general feeling was that it was probably the best pint. And it just had a vibe to it that you needed to sit amongst and enjoy.
I think the main thing is that, like, that was one of the criteria for this film, was we were going to go to pubs where there was at least 3 generations in the same family. And as well as that, it's where the owner has the same name as what's over the door. And as you said, these guys are chatting to their customers. They know their locals. They protect their locals. They, like you'd see in the film, you'd see one of the owners saying if somebody sat on Dano's chair, he'd move them, because he's going to come in. That's his chair. And so there's this sense of community, which is such a part of our history and our culture.
The idea of moving somebody out of the seat is very strong. You do always feel, if you go into one of those pubs, that it's like the scene from An American Werewolf in London, where they put their head in the door and the lads stop playing darts.
Yeah.
You made me miss.
That actually happens. And when you arrive with a camera in your hand, you'd be amazed at the looks you get.
Yeah. What was your favourite? What was your best one that you found?
Difficult one to answer. There's different. I mean, each of these pubs had their unique selling points, if you like. Some of them were brilliant because the owner was just the wittiest person you've ever met. Or some of them, like I went into a pub in the middle of nowhere in Newtown in Carlow, Smith's Pub, and there was
people get very hurt
piano
when
bar.
you say where they live is the middle of nowhere.
Well, okay. Well, it took me a long time to get there, but it's not in the middle of nowhere. It's obviously a lovely, actually amazing town. One of the most beautiful churches in Ireland in it, but let's put it this way: it's isolated from towns. And this pub, I walked in and it was huge. It had like rows of red leather chairs, and the owner, Michael Smith, brought me in and he started playing the piano on this huge grand piano. And it used to be like a cabaret pub back in the day, where people would come from all over. It would be 350 people, he would tell me.
Yeah.
And so that was the most fascinating pub, just from an aesthetic point of view. But as I said, there's each pub is just.
We found so many around the country.
They're sprinkled everywhere.
Are they dying out? Are they reaching the end of the road? Because the pub trade is certainly having a hard time with the drink driving has clamped down on it. Smoking has had an effect on it as well, the smoking ban.
Yeah.
But these little ones, you might, in your romantic heart, think they'll cling on because they're small enough.
Yeah,
but can they?
It's a very, very good question, and I suppose it's really up to the people of Ireland whether they will continue going to these pubs or not. Another point is that the third, the fourth generation now are highly educated, and they might not have an interest in going in. They might not have the same interest as their parents did, and so that's probably the biggest factor, which I kind of saw.
Right.
Although there are pubs all around Ireland where you'd see a 25-year-old, 26-year-old who takes as much passion as their parents and their grandparents and their great-grandparents. You have the Barras in Cork, you have Willie Ahern in the Palace Bar in Dublin, you have the Six Generations in the Gravediggers pub in Glasnevin. So there is still that pride all over the place.
John through the window, it's just every time you say a pub, he's going, fantastic pub. Oh, that's a great pub. Oh, I know that one. That's a lovely pub.
You will learn a lot about Irish pubs by going to see this movie.
We have a little clip. This is a little clip from the movie, just to give you a taste of what it's like.
other pubs elsewhere, I suppose they just don't go into conversation. But with an Irish pub, everybody, as soon as you come in, after a while, they'd ask where you're from, what you're doing, or whatever it is about you, sort of thing.
You go to England for tea, you go to Ireland for the Irish pub. Isn't that what you do? I'm just making a quick comparison there. That's what I do. I go to England for tea.
Everybody comes to meet in the pub. Everybody says hello to their friends. Sorry. How are you, Frankie? Great game. Class game. Magic.
It's a lovely sense of caring in the community from it. But I suppose that what we'd wonder about it, the good side of it, is that the pub is social area for people to go to. They're known there. There's a friendly bond between as they move. If someone sits in Dano's seat, they get moved. It's just, and they'd notice if you weren't there, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the good side of it, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the good side. And of course, with everything, there's a negative side as well. I mean, there's a lot of the criticisms which we're getting is, oh God, did you go into alcohol enough and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That side of Ireland, especially with the whole Arthur's Day. And I suppose,
can you go somewhere and just have a cup of coffee, for instance?
Yeah. Certainly, like a lot of the pubs I was filming during the day, there was a lot more, as many people having coffee, and they were just going for the chat, and you'd have McCarthy's and Feathered, you'd have the priest coming in and having a coffee and having a chat, and he was giving change to the pub owner, and then he was giving notes back to the priest. They were doing this sort of bartering system. So yeah, there's that sort of
that strikes me as a sort of economic model that can't last.
You said the banks don't like it.
Yeah. The hours, you have to be there all day, and people aren't exactly. How many pints you need to spend? Does Dano need to drink for that place to stay open? There's a lot of responsibility on Dano here.
Yeah, it is. It's a really interesting point, and like I said, it's if it is dying, I think we as a society will lose out, because what you have at the moment is you have every coffee shop is now nearly the same. Every chemist is the same. Every corner shop is the same. Every supermarket's the same, and we'll get to a point eventually where every pub might be the same, and the heart and soul of it will just be gone. And I think at the moment we can all be cynical about these things, but in 20 years' time, I think we'll reflect back and we'll go, that was actually, you could see why people all over the world came to Ireland for this, and it's like the number one reason why people come to Ireland for this, and it's not to do with alcohol. It really isn't. It's to do with the chat, and it's to do with the conversation, and it's to do with the stories and the colloquial way of telling a story, which is completely and utterly unique to these pubs.
I'll tell you, you're putting the fear of God into me now, because I remember years and years and years ago, we were touring in America, and we pulled off the highway to see if we were in the right place, and we looked, and there was a McDonald's and a Burger King, an Esso station, and a diner. And we got in the car, we were like, don't, it's the right place. And we drove about another 20 miles, and we pulled off the next exit, and there was McDonald's, a Burger King, a diner, and an Esso station. And we were saying, how do we know where we are? This is identical. And this American woman that was with me kind of said under her breath, scary generic.
Yeah.
And it's haunted me to say
that's
scary
exactly
generic.
Where everything gravitates towards a mean, everything's standardized. So when somebody smiles at you, they're giving you a very trained smile. That's, it's like, you've got to have a nice day, sir. And